Hello and welcome to another Times Radio Members Question and Answer. Now today we're answering comments from our channel members on our frontline episodes and other videos about the war in Ukraine and its impact on the world stage. I'm Philip Ingram. I currently present Times Radio Frontline, but I'm a former senior British military intelligence officer and NATO planner, and I comment on all things geopolitical, defence, security, cyber, and anything else that people pay me to want to comment on around the world. And I'm going to get straight into your points and your questions. And Marty, welcome back, Marty. Thank you for being a regular on here. You turned around and say 17% reduced capacity for refining and a massive hit on the Ust-Luga port structures for LNG. You're, of course, talking about the Ukrainians attacking Russian oil infrastructure and reducing its refining capability and its storage capability. Ukraine shows how to properly sanction Russian oil and gas, both for domestic and war usage and exports. With the new Flamingo missile, they should have even more chances to further reduce Putin's financial resources. Of course, here you're referring to the new Flamingo missile, which is a Ukrainian cruise-type missile with a range of 3,000 kilometers and a warhead of just over 1,100 kilograms, which is significant, and the Ukrainians say that they are successfully using them. And you say, and perhaps stir up some unrest in civil society. Could prices not just go up by 10%, but double or increase several times? Well, Marty, I think you've hit the nail on the head. And the key thing about this is what the Ukrainians are doing is they're attacking the operational level inside Russia, the operational level of warfare. You've got strategic, operational, tactical. Tactical is what is going on the front lines in the east in particular, the disputed Donbass region. Operational levels are Russia's ability to continue to support its tactical operations but influence what is going on strategically. And that operational level, that support, by attacking the oil infrastructure, the oil and gas infrastructure, the Ukrainians are attacking Russia's ability to continue to fund its conflict. They're attacking the will of the Russian people as they become more embroiled, finding it difficult to get access to fuel for their vehicles. And I understand that there have been queues for what they describe as AL95 petrol that have lasted hours and hours and hours, and in some areas there have been restrictions to only 10 litres going out to people. So it is bringing that home, and that's the level of conflict that if you can't beat an enemy at a tactical perspective, and there's no way the Ukrainians, if you compare paper strength to Russian paper strength, are ever going to win a straight tactical battle, you undermine their ability to continue to support that war. And that's what the Ukrainians have been doing for quite a while with their special operations executive type attacks, and now backed up by further drone attacks. So it's the right level for the Ukrainians to influence the Russians, and I think that influence is getting there. Zelensky and the Ukrainians have got cards in their hands, and they are bringing their own sanctions in. And they don't, because they're Ukrainian-produced missiles, they don't require permission from the United States or anywhere else on what targets they can use them. So a very good point, and we'll be watching that closely. Jeffrey, you bring in the next point. You say, the coalition of the willing must move some boots into western part of Ukraine immediately to put pressure on Putin. Couldn't these be under the banner of a civil guard that can free Ukrainian forces to take more offensive position in the east of Ukraine? Jeffrey, yes, they could, but Ukraine as a nation state can ask for support from any other nation state whenever it wants to, but it's up to then militaries whether they'll do that. I don't think politically any country will contribute military forces into Ukraine whilst they're fighting the Russians unless there's some form of ceasefire or some form of peace agreement, because you then get into very grey areas as to whether you are coming in and being part of the conflict, and that could then lead to the Russians using that as an excuse to target you directly. So I think there needs to be a peace agreement, or at the very least a ceasefire agreement in place before that would be considered politically acceptable in the capitals of Europe, and I include London in that. So one for us to watch, but your sentiment is right. Astro, welcome back again. Your next comment. But how could Trump have predicted being turned down for a stunning trilat idea? He only calls Putin every couple of days. I'm detecting a degree of cynicism here in what you're writing. Am I right? Trump, I think, knows that Putin is not going to agree to anything. Trump is coming out with bilat and trilat ideas, and we're referring to comments that he came out with suggesting that there should be bilateral discussions between Vladimir Putin and President Zelensky, and a trilateral between Putin, Zelensky and Trump. And this was after the Alaska Putin-Trump summit, and then the Washington Oval Office, Zelensky, most of the European leaders summit that happened only a week later. I think Donald Trump is coming out with the sound bites that he thinks are appropriate, and probably understands that they're not going to be listened to. But the one person who's not listening to them is Vladimir Putin. It'll be interesting to see whether Donald Trump changes his mind on Putin and gets angry at him, or continues to tacitly support Putin's view in many ways. Marty, another point from you. You say, I'm more skeptical about Putin's ability to continue unmolested as the Russian economy is getting worse every month. Money seems to be slowly running out. Ukraine now damaged and destroying about 13% of Russia's refining capacities as of last week, I think 17% now. Purges fly through the system too, with corruption omnipresent. Everyone is in a position of power, has a potential target on the back. So far, FSB, police and military are loyal to Putin, but I wonder what happens when they don't get paid anymore, as they're used to. A coup may happen faster than anyone expects it. And from the military itself, some resistance might form, like the Prigozhin back in 2023. And you're talking, of course, Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner Group's attempted coup back in 2023. Marty, very fair points. And actually, I'll point you straight back to one of the interviews that we've done this week, and that may have stimulated this. That's me interviewing Bill Browder, and we talk all those very issues that are there. I think there's a potential for unrest to build, but Bill said that there was no evidence of that at the moment, because all of the oligarchs who would be potentially putting pressure on Putin are kowtowing to him still. They owe their very existence and their wealth on Putin staying in position. But he also turned around and said that if Putin went very quickly for any reason, they'd get together in a conclave type get together and elect another Vladimir Putin, like the new Pope was elected, and we'd see the black or white smoke coming out of the Kremlin, is what Bill said. I tend to believe everything that Bill says, because he knows the Russian psyche and the oligarch psyche better than most people around the world. So thank you for that very valid point, something that we're watching closely. And again, thank you all for watching this week's Q&A, and for posting your questions. Remember, if you want access to exclusive videos and to have your questions answered, please sign up for Times Radio membership. And of course, you can get us on your favourite podcast channel. Just search Times Radio Frontline. Thank you. Goodbye.